Hello and welcome to this week's Nintendo Switch 2 and PlayStation hacking scene update. We've got a packed roundup. Nintendo's latest firmware broke the Switch Homebrew, but fixes are rolling out. A new PlayStation 5 exploit via Netflix is making waves, open source hardware mods are progressing, and a rapid fire update on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 jailbreak tools. Let's dive in. So, Nintendo dropped System Update 21.0.0 for Switch and Switch 2 last week, and unsurprisingly, it threw a wrench in the custom firmware scene. Right after release, users found that Atmosphère custom firmware couldn't even boot if they updated, essentially breaking Homebrew entirely. The Atmosphère lead dev Cyrus M scrambled to push out Atmosphère version 1.10.0, a pre-release, adding support for 21.0.0 so custom firmware can boot now. However, this update did more damage than usual. Nintendo quietly changed a low-level system interface TLS memory in 21.00, which broke a ton of Homebrew apps, even ones that hadn't needed updates for years. Essentially, older Homebrew used some reserved memory that Nintendo just repurposed, leading to memory corruption and crashes. As Cyrus M noted, all Homebrew software may need to be recompiled with the latest libnx or else it may crash. In play terms, many Homebrew apps, emulators, tools, etc. simply stop working on 21.0.0 until their developers update them. This is why after updating custom firmwares, people saw errors or apps instantly closing. The underlying system changed in a way that old apps couldn't handle. Less memory for mods. Nintendo also clawed back about 10 megabytes of RAM from the system for itself in this update, meaning some custom sys modules have less room to run. There's no immediate fix for that, so modders might need to optimize memory usage going forward. Luckily, over the past few days, the community has been hustling to catch up. As of today, the crucial signature patches needed to run Homebrew and backups have been updated for 21.0.0 plus Atmosphère 1.10.0. Many popular tools are also getting fixes. We've seen new builds of installers, save managers, etc. being released to restore compatibility. The Homebrew menu itself was updated to warn you if an app is compiled with the old, incompatible SDK, a helpful heads up so you don't accidentally launch outdated apps. In short, if you did accidentally update your Switch, all is not lost. Update to the latest Atmosphère plus Security, grab the new signature patches, and make sure to update Homebrew apps to their 21.0.0 compatible versions. Shameless plug, you can follow my guide in the description for step-by-step custom firmware update instructions. The MIG flashcard users beware. One specific callout: if you use a MIG Switch, the popular flashcard based mod solution, do not update yet. Users report that on 21.0.0 any game launched with the MIG card gets stuck in a perpetual please wait loading loop. Essentially, MIG isn't compatible with the new firmware at the moment. So the MIG team will likely need to update their firmware to support 21.0.0, so hold off on updating if you rely on that hack. So Nintendo clearly hasn't forgotten the original Switch scene even in 2025. They're still finding ways to temporarily knock us off course. The good news is the Atmosphère devs reacted quickly. Version 1.10.0 arrived within a couple days, and the Homebrew community is now picking up the pieces by updating apps that in some cases hadn't been touched in years. And this is actually a chance for new devs to step in and revive old projects. Keep an eye on the Switch Tools feed for a rolling list of which Homebrew apps have been updated for 21.0.0, and of course always check the community alerts before installing a Nintendo update. It can save you from a lot of headache. Now to the Switch 2 hardware modding front. The community project to expand storage via NVMe SSD is quietly moving forward. You might recall NVNT's open source NVMe adapter SDE-X2M2 that aims to let the Switch 2 use standard M.2 SSDs in the micro slot. There's no public release yet, but I spoke with NVNT directly and got some encouraging news. He's been integrating insights from Positive Labs, proof of concept, the team that already tricked a Switch 2 into accepting an NVMe drive, into his design. Development is ramping up. In fact, NVNT is relocating to a larger workshop to speed up prototyping. The goal is to have a working adapter possibly by the end of the year. So while we don't have a purchasable Switch 2 SSD adapter just yet, know that it's in the works behind the scenes. Expanded storage for Switch 2 using cheap NVMe drives you might already have is getting closer to reality thanks to the hobbyist hacking community. Stay tuned on that one. Now, what about the Switch 2 jailbreak itself? The console is still very new, and as expected, there's no public full exploit or custom firmware for it yet. In fact, some respected hackers have openly suggested that the Switch 2 system might be exceptionally secure, basically a tougher nut to crack than even the original Switch. Cyrus M and others spent years adding the Switch 1's Horizon OS microkernel and found no obvious bugs, and that same hardened kernel is running on Switch 2. He commented that the kernel is so small, 600 functions, that it's possible Nintendo got it right with no exploitable flaws. Now, that sounds ominous, and indeed we may never see a software-only hack if Nintendo's done their job perfectly. However, before you lose hope, let's put this in perspective. People said the same about other consoles and devices in the past. The Xbox One famously went an entire generation with no soft mod until one finally appeared years later. Also, the PlayStation 5 was viewed as virtually unhackable at launch with its heavily hypervisor security. Yet here we are in 2025 on the cusp of a full PlayStation 5 jailbreak. It took some time, but exploits did emerge. In hacking, impossible often just means not possible right now. As Cyrus M himself noted, it's not impossible that a fresh researcher could find something all the veterans missed. Sometimes all it takes is one creative approach or a mistake in a future update. So yes, at the moment the Switch 2 is a locked box and it might stay that way for a while, but I wouldn't be on it being forever unhackable. The community is poking at it, testing early exploits in private, examining the hardware for weaknesses. The Tegra T239 has new anti-tamper measures, but hackers love a challenge, and even trying some out-of-the-box tricks. For instance, on launch day developer David Buchanan showed a small userland exploit where a Switch 1 game save when transferred to Switch 2 triggered a custom graphic on screen. That was just a harmless demo and stayed sandboxed, but it proved that some vulnerabilities can carry over. Eventually, with patience, I suspect we'll see something more substantial, whether it's a game exploit, a WebKit browser entry, or even a hardware mode chip. So the bottom line, don't be too worried that Switch 2 will never be hacked. It's true Nintendo has raised the bar, maybe even close to perfection on the software side, but the hacking scene isn't giving up. It may take months or years, but history shows that determined folks find a way. In the meantime, if you're hoping for a future soft mode, stay on lower firmware, disable auto updates, and follow community's best practices. This will keep your console in the best possible state to take advantage of any future breakthrough. Alright, onto the PlayStation hacking scene, which has been on fire lately. There's a lot of ground to cover, so let's hit the highlights. The PlayStation 5 YouTube app exploit, aka Y2JB, which is the YouTube jailbreak, has matured significantly. The latest beta version 1.2.1 can be changed directly with the Labs kernel exploit and EtherHand payload, effectively turning the YouTube app into a one-click full jailbreak on supported firmware up to 10.01. In practice, you launch YouTube, the exploit gains userland code execution, escalates via Labs, then automatically loads EtherHand, and boom, you have Homebrew, debug settings, backups, etc. all enabled. It's not 100% foolproof yet, but it's getting very stable. In fact, any independent model released a Y2 jailbreak Autoloader version 0.3 tool that automates the whole chain for you. After an initial setup, you can launch the YouTube app and the Autoloader will automatically trigger the exploit, load the kernel hacks, and even launch additional payloads without needing a PC at all. And that's just fire. Well, it's still in beta, and some users on firmware 9.60 reported instability, even kernel panics requiring a recovery refresh in worst cases. So if you're on the very edge firmware, you might hold off until it's polished. But overall, it already means that jailbreaking a PlayStation 5 is as easy as clicking an app. Now, there are also some news about the Netflix and hack situation, and if you don't know it right now, hackers found another app entry point, this time Netflix. A developer released Netflix and Hack version 1.0, a userland exploit for the PlayStation 5 Netflix app. It uses a clever man-in-the-middle trick. The Netflix app at times requested a JavaScript file from a non-existent localhost address, so the tool intercepts that request and serves a custom script, and thereby executing code on the PlayStation 5. So the hack triggers on Netflix error screen and works on PlayStation 5 firmwares 5 through 9.00, possibly up to 9.60 with some tweaks. The Netflix app is very frequently used. This gives users another options beside the web browser or YouTube, so it's also a testament to the community's creativity. Coming to the popular Bluray Exploit method for PlayStation 5, also got a handy upgrade. A new version of the PlayStation 5 BDJB modified ISO packaging brings a bunch of quality of life additions. According to the changelog, it now comes bundled with a suite of Homebrew PKG installers on the disk itself. After running the disk exploit, you can pop into debug settings and directly install packaged apps that are included on the disk. And I mean, these include the YouTube app, Atmosphère 1.12, PlayStation 5 Explorer, PlayStation 5 Temperature, an avatar changer, FPKGI, and a Homebrew Store app. Essentially, the disk itself now seats your console with all the key Homebrew apps you would want without needing a PC transfer. Additionally, the disk's built-in payloads like the web server and FTP server were updated to latest versions for stability. So just burn the ISO, run the BDJB exploit, and you will have EtherHand autoloading and a bunch of tools ready to install. This makes setting up a jailbroken PlayStation 5 from scratch even more noob-friendly. So the PlayStation 5 homebrew ecosystem is evolving rapidly. A new FPKG installer version 3 rolled out for jailbroken PlayStation 5s. This tool streamlines the installation of packages files. Previously, installing games on PlayStation 5 could be a bit clunky. A dedicated homebrew app makes it more straightforward. Then we got Kstuff toggle version 0.4 beta. This utility lets you disable kernel patches on the fly after you've jailbroken, mainly to boost game performance or stability. I mean, some homebrew or unofficial patches can slightly impact performance. By turning them off once a game is launched, you get back that extra bit of CPU/RAM overhead. Version 0.4 adds full support for firmware 9.05 consoles and improves the toggling process. And here's even more. The Etahen custom firmware payload itself keeps getting better. Recent test builds added an on-screen network info display and an overlay position editor. We also saw a PlayStation 5 app dumper version 1.02, which can fully dump game files and decrypt the executables on the go. And on the PlayStation 4 side, the Apollo save tool got another update with more cheats and quality of life features. That's a whirlwind of developments. To summarize, the PlayStation 5 is closer than ever to a comprehensive jailbreak spanning even more firmware versions, and the supporting tools are flourishing. If you're on the PlayStation 5 at or below 10.01, you're already able to enjoy homebrew and backups with relative ease. If you're on the higher firmware up to 12.00, don't lose hope. The exploit exists and it's likely just a matter of time until a user-friendly solution reaches you too. And PlayStation 4 folks, you haven't been forgotten in all this. Even as focus shifts slowly but surely to PlayStation 5, new exploits and homebrew updates means the PlayStation 4 can do more than ever in its twilight years. Oh man. It's been an exciting week across the console hacking world, from Nintendo's updates keeping us on our toes and giving community devs a workout, to the PlayStation 5 scene accelerating towards a full jailbreak for higher and higher versions. There's never a dull moment. So the homebrew community's resilience is on full display. What on day is broken gets fixed the next, and new ideas keep pushing boundaries. And hey, one quick aside in broader tech news. If you noticed a bunch of websites not loading on November 18th, it wasn't your internet provider. Cloudflare had a major outage that day, taking down a huge chunk of the internet for a few hours. It was caused by an internal bug rather than any cyber attack. They resolved it within the day, but it was a reminder that even the internet's infrastructure can hike up unexpectedly. And that's all for this week's update. It was a jam-packed roundup, so thank you for sticking with me to the end. If you enjoyed this news blitz, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more weekly homebrew updates. I love bringing all these scenes together, and based on your feedback, I will keep covering everything in one place so you don't miss a thing. And hey, if you got a question or you think I missed something important, drop a comment below. I'm always reading them and I might cover your question in the next video. Until next time, stay safe, don't forget to smile. My name is you. Peace.